3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Reflx Lab 800 adventure. This time we're hitting the streets after dark to see how this tungsten film performs. Not only after dark, but this role in particular, this part 2 role, was shot in and around Wuxi and the city, mostly at night in a theatre and around the outskirts of the theatre in a shopping mall. Some one or two shots maybe during the daytime or lower light. It was more winter, so yeah, but let's get into it. So in the last episode, I guess, whatever we want to call it, iteration program, we saw some pretty amazing results in bright sunlight. But guess what? Reflx 800 isn't a one-trick pony. This stuff is surprisingly versatile, let me try to say that correctly, but Kodak Vision 3 cinema film in general, particularly Kodak 5219, which this film is, that's what they do. They get Kodak 5219 cinema film, remove the remjet layer, repackage it. That's what Reflx Lab does for the 800, that's what Cinestill does. So yeah, I'm going to get into it, but be sure to hang out through to the end of the video where I'll give you a way to download my 4-part breakdown, or yeah, just have access to it. So anyway, let's get into it. What I think shooting this film in more correctly what it's designed for, lighting settings, so more tungsten based settings, low light tungsten. It gives sharper images, I think, what I found. The focus can be tricky at night, and I struggled, but when I did nail it, like in some of these images, the images were sharper with a greater, deeper clarity across the image. The subjects seem to pop a little bit more in the images, and yeah, I learned a pretty big lesson shooting this at night, in the dark of night. After a show, I think I shot probably about 10 to 11 o'clock at night, so it was pretty dark and it was a winter night. So yeah, I learned a lesson to shoot with a tripod, because I was trying to shoot handheld, and that would lead me to my next point, where the exposure, it was tricky for me to get the exposure accurate because I messed up a bunch. I was shooting handheld and I was trying to not shoot slower than 1/30th of a second. So handheld, I was getting a bit of shake, but also I had to widen my aperture all the way through, and I was shooting scenes where it was a wide scene where there were subjects across the whole scene and not just one main subject in the foreground. And I think that's where I experimented, but learnt that when you're shooting wide open, particularly at night, it's better to have a single subject in the frame with a background of lighting or whatever to perhaps add to the scene. But because you're shooting wide open, you're going to have that separation of background and foreground and subject, and the subject might be in focus but the background might not. So yeah, I learnt that I should probably have taken a tripod. I know that I can't whip out a tripod in the theatre, but perhaps outside I could have got some better images. So yeah, if you're shooting this at night, take a tripod, or try at least balance your camera and get a bit of a narrower aperture with a slower shutter speed. You'll get some nice effects. So yes, use a tripod, open the aperture and slow things down. Then I also noticed that the colors, particularly yellow and blue, really pop on the images that I got here, and I've got some examples that I'll go across, like the shots that I took of the theatre. You can see in the highlights and some of the shadows, it's got like a blue and yellow that come through quite vividly and beautifully. And yeah, that's where I feel like Reflx 800 shines, with the yellows and blues, shooting in tungsten lit scenes. And also skin tones look super accurate under artificial light. As you can see in the shots of the theatre that I took within the theatre during an intermission, we were watching Swan Lake by the Russian ballet company, which was awesome. I surprised my wife. Just a little date thing, took her to the theatre, and yeah, just awesome to get away. Just a random side note. And yeah, so I took some shots in the theatre, and then also as we were going to the theatre, there's a Lawson, which is a convenience store here in China and I think in Japan. And it's blue, the logo and everything, the Lawson store is blue. And I took a shot through the window, and that came out really beautiful with the yellows of the light inside the store and then the blue logos, or I don't know, window displays for Lawson. And that's where you can see that this film really, really shines. And then another obvious place where 800 speed remjet layer removed film shines is the Halations. Cinestill 800 particularly is known for the halations that you get, and so is Reflx Lab. And yeah, it's the star of the show. Speaking of show of theatre, yeah, definitely the star of the show. The dreamy light blooms are even more prominent, particularly shot at night against the dark shadows. They just are vivid and punchy, and I think that's pretty obvious, but they add a new level of atmosphere to the images. And I think when knowing that and shooting with that intentionality of having the bright exposed areas contrasted with dark shadows, it definitely has more punch. But also there are some shots that I took within the theatre waiting hall where there were pillars that were just LED light pillars in the waiting hall, and you can even still see there how the halations are a lot more clearer and have a more definite bloom and presence in the images as compared to last week's roll that I shared, where you can see the halations but they don't seem to be quite in your face, I guess is the way I'd put it. So yeah, I think just shoot with intentionality. And I mean, overall, Reflx Lab 800 is a fantastic film with beautiful halations and very surprising versatility. And yeah, that's kind of why I make these videos, to show you the potential or lack thereof of all the film stocks that I can get my hands on. And yeah, what I put together a 4-part breakdown, which I put on my Instagram stories, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you guys here, and then you guys can either screenshot it from here if you're watching on a device that can screenshot, or you can just head over to my Instagram and download it from my stories, and then just see some of the images, maybe take a bit more time to look across the images. Yeah, so head over there if you want. I'll put my Instagram at Darren A Fielding, and yeah, we can also check the description for any of those links. It's a great reference for shooting 800, Reflx 800, or any of the other films that I've tried out. Just kind of my thoughts and what I think where their strengths and weaknesses, I guess. So yeah, and then I'd also like to add that I try to find all the film stocks that I can available on Amazon. If I don't find the one I've shot exactly, then I find whatever is closest to or most similar to, and I put them in the description below, links, Amazon links. So if you are able to, if you do shop Amazon, then maybe go through the link in the description and buy some of the film if you want to get hold of it. It's not absolutely necessary, and it's of no extra cost to you. Just I do get a little bit of kickback from that, I guess. And also, yeah, that helps the channel for me to buy more film to experiment with. But also, if you're not so keen on Amazon, yeah, just leave me a like or a comment and share your thoughts. That would be appreciated. And then, yeah, big thanks to Matthew Durier for his insight and tips for the channel. He's given me so much food for thought in order to better bring across my thoughts and bring value to you guys. So thank you, Matthew. The secret phrase for this week is heavenly halation, so comment that if you made it to the end. And of course, thanks to you for watching. Leave a comment below, let's chat. And yeah, appreciate you guys so much. Be blessed and just keep making stuff. Darren out. Oh yeah, stay tuned for next week's video. Subscribe, and that's going to be pretty cool. See ya. A black and white film. Okay, cheers guys, bye.